just had to set the date and time again on my bloody GoPro 9 here, just as I start to record. I'm sick of it doing that. Right, so I'm just doing a bit of a follow-up to my last video, because I've decided to go brave and disconnect all the cables off the motherboard and remove the front panel, which I've got on the floor in front of there now. So that's the top up there, where it's got the DE9202726H at the top. So obviously that round thing there is the actual sensor. So that's where the sensor button is. Now, when I took this off, there was a screw missing from this bottom left-hand corner, and there wasn't one in the middle there. I'm not sure if it's supposed to have one. And there's another one here on the bottom right-hand corner. Now, to get this off, you've got some little plastic tabs on the right-hand side. So once you take the screws out, you just push those little black plastic tabs on the right side edge of the motherboard. Just gently prise them to the right, and it'll start lifting up out the housing. And I'm just looking down below there now. So just below this main yellow plate here, you can see the edge of the diaphragm, or whatever it is, the silver metal thing, which keeps the buttons all in tow. So I'll imagine the guy who had this microwave might have took it apart, took the motherboard off, and then he's attempted to put it back together again, and he hasn't aligned the metal diaphragm underneath, so the buttons aren't working, because they were all slack and just pushing in, not making contact with anything. But while I've got it apart, obviously there's your three relays that you put your pink, your blue and your white on. And you've got your little pink sockets there too, one on the top, one on the bottom. So you've got to make sure you put the plugs back in them two correctly when you start putting it back together again. That's why I keep them bunched up together, so even though I've took it apart, by the time I've put the front panel in, they'll more or less, you know, where they came out, and they'll just go straight back in. That's the best way to do it anyway. So you can tell that that's at the top anyway, because there's the thin slot where you push that micro ribbon into. So, and obviously that little yellow thing with the numbers on it is your little tiny little transformer. Sometimes that goes as well, so that could be parts of the problem if your microwave is not working properly from the motherboard. But I'm just going to attempt to take these screws out, unclip it from the two black plastic tabs on the right. Oh, there's three, there's another one up there. The three plastic tabs, you just got to push them aside, and then it'll start lifting out. So I'll have to be gentle. But that's the state of play so far. Right, so I'll bring it back. Bye for now. Right, I'm sorry, I've just got to keep doing this in dribs and drabs. Right, I've taken the screws that were holding the motherboard down to the diaphragm board here, and obviously there's some screws missing, and it looks like he's broke off a couple of the hold down tabs here, and the alignment plastics, where especially that one he snapped it off just there. So basically that's probably why the diaphragm underneath his board is not going to be in the right positioning. So that's the motherboard I've just taken out. I'll just flip it over for you. One hand, man. Right, so that's what obviously your motherboard looks like, and there's your digital readout at the top, and your heat problems, what have you, and all your solders. Right, so I've got to now take this main plate off with this DKM Chic 2 14 key 13th of September 2013 on it. So I've got to take these little screws out. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's one missing from the top left there, and there's probably one missing from the right there as well. So basically this is what should be holding it down and keeping the diaphragm in position underneath it. So I would imagine that's why when I was trying to push the buttons on the top 6, they were just floating around, they weren't making contact with anything. So it'd be interesting to see what the state of play is once I remove this long skinny board. But I've just got to make sure I'm making a note of each and every turn I take, so I can get everything pushed back in the right direction. Right, I'm nervous as hell, but I want to try it. I just want to see if I can do it myself. Right, so I'll bring it back. Bye for now. Right, I've been trembling like hell trying to get this plastic board out, like, because you've got to be very gentle and pushing out the tabs for to release it. So as well as the screws holding it down, there's plastic tabs on the sides that you've got to be very careful, because if you push them too far apart, you'll start snapping them off. And then eventually I've gotten down to the bit where the silver foil is underneath the motherboard, and that board I've just taken out with the ribbon at the top, and this is the earth cable, a silver foil. So I've got to, so basically whoever's put this back together, they haven't lined it up properly and they haven't tightened it up properly. So basically all the buttons have been starting to drop out the sockets. So when you turn it over, instead of when you press them making a nice clicking sound, there's nothing, because they're not pushing up against anything. So you have to perfectly line up everything for the keyboard to work. So when I go to put it back together, it's got to be put back in properly and tightened up, so there's no room for the buttons to come out. When I've just lifted up the silver foil here, a lot of the buttons housings came out because it's just easily lift out. So it's the top 6 that I'm concerned about. So I'm just going to lift them all out individually and then push them back in and see that they're supposed to clip in or something, to make sure they don't pop back out when you first press them. But this is the first time I've ever gotten as far as this via the front panel. So there's your display window at the top. So when you see the clock come on at 12 o'clock, that's where you see it through there, on the display of your motherboard. So when I put it all back together, I've just got to retrace my steps basically, and I'll give that motherboard a quick clean before it goes back in. Right, so as you can see, I've had a little list here. I've wrote down all those cables where they've got to go back on the motherboard when I do go to put it back together. But it's been hard work for me, because obviously I haven't got the use of my left hand with having a stroke. So I've just had to dilly-dally, just go slow, and then try and push out the plastic tabs enough to get this yellow board out of the sockets, and work it so I can get this bloody silver foil. Right, come on in. So that's got to be perfectly placed so it matches up with all the buttons when you press them. Right, let's pull out a little bit more. So I can see where they've gone wrong, where nothing's been worked when you press the buttons. But it's not necessarily the keyboard, it's sometimes it's the motherboard as well. But that'll do for now. I just wanted to show you how far I've got stripping this down. So there's your ribbon. Right, what's on the other side of this? Right. Oh. So there's your keypads that you're pressing. So there's the 2 bottom ones below the knob. So that's start. That's the stop button and on the left, and that's the start button on the right. So this is another thing that you've got to do with these. Hopefully you can clean them up. Put some sellotape over the top so they protrude a little bit more, and push against the buttons and get a better contact. So the top 6 is the ones that I'll be looking for to try and tidy them up a bit more. So when you press them in, you get a good contact, and they press down and come up very easy. Right, so that's what's been happening. So I hope this helps. Bye for now.